everybody, I'm Mrs. B and you've come to the Artlife YouTube channel. I'm so grateful that you've joined me today because I love creating and showing you how to create at home. Today we're going to work together to create a 3-step artwork that uses watercolours as the material. But I'm going to show you 3 different ways to use those watercolours. And we're going to create an artwork that has to do with something magical that happens each year. And that is the change of the seasons during autumn. So your artwork might look a little bit like this at the end, but there are 3 different layers or 3 different steps I'll take you through to create this beautiful autumn-inspired artwork. Now, the main material that you're going to need for this task today is your handy watercolour palette. There are 3 steps to this task, but we're going to be using watercolours for every single step. So you do need a set of watercolours and some clean water to start with. Now, I'm going to be showing you 3 different ways to paint today. So in order to do that, you will need a brush to paint with. And I'm also going to show you something that you'll need a straw for. So gather your materials and set up your painting station and we can get started. So today I'm just working on cartridge paper, which is a tiny bit thicker than just regular paper. So the thicker your paper is, the better your artwork's going to look with this task because it means it won't soak up as much of the water. But I'm just using fairly standard paper and show you that it can be done with whatever you have at home. So the idea today is we're going to be creating an artwork of an autumn tree. Now, an autumn tree is very different to a winter tree. It's very different to a spring tree. So have a think now about the type of colours you might see when it comes to looking at trees during autumn time. What are some colours that we might need to use today? Now, when we think of creating a tree, generally these colours come to mind, don't they? Trees are generally green, but the amazing thing about autumn and awesome deciduous trees, they lose their leaves. And before losing their leaves, they change colour. And it's a time of transformation for these trees as the seasons change. And the amazing thing that happens is that the trees will go beautiful red, orange, yellow, and even a bit of brown with their leaves before falling off. So those 4 colours are the ones we're going to focus on for this first part. So we're creating a tree, but we're not doing the trunk yet. We're actually going to be creating a large sort of area full of colour. So what you're going to do is not put any colour on your brush just yet, just some water. And I'm going to paint with my water. I'm going to dab it onto the top of my work here. It's a bit hard to see because water is completely clear, but hopefully you can tell what I'm doing after I add some paint. All right, so I've got a bit of a pool of water here. Now what I'm going to do is choose one of my beautiful autumn colours and I'm going to dab that on. Isn't that beautiful? You notice that because the water's already on there, the colour sort of spreads really nicely. If I were to do that on a bit that has no water, it doesn't really spread, it just stays there. So we want to paint water first and then add all the different autumn colours that you know and let them sort of play together and blend into one another. Once you've finished a section, paint the rest with water. You'll notice the colours they might follow the water a little bit. It's the cool thing about watercolours. And we might add some more different autumn colours. This is just a background at the moment. We are going to add more details after, so we're just sort of putting a layer of colour down for our tree. So do a nice big sort of cloud at the top of your A4 paper here. Try to get all those little gaps. Now if you add too much water, your paper will go a little bit too crinkly and might even go a bit bally, so we want to avoid that. We don't want to overwork the paint by doing this. You see my paper's already starting to tear away there. That's not the best way to use watercolours. It's actually better to use more water and just dab on your colours to let them play around with each other. So you can make this nice big tree area as big as you want. Maybe don't do anything down here because the idea of that is that will be the trunk. So let's just kind of spread our colours around and have fun with these, watching these colours hang out with each other. Autumn is one of my favourite seasons. One reason being is because it's when my birthday is, but also because I do just adore when the colours change. It really is a special thing that happens each year. Cool. So hopefully you have got a bit of a base here for your tree. The idea is just to have these beautiful autumn colours kind of play together, but not mix them too much that they all blend in and turn into a new colour. If you get sort of pools of colour like this, what you can do is just grab a tissue and place it onto your page. It will just soak up some of the extra water that's there. If you've used too much, that's fine. If you want to dab a bit of tissue onto your work so that it doesn't get too watery. That can happen sometimes. Beautiful. Well done, everyone. You have done step number 1, and that was painting with a paintbrush, which is generally what I show you to do, but today we're going to mix it up a little bit, and I'm going to show you 2 more ways or 2 more details you can add, but now we're not using our paintbrush at all. But we do need to let this dry a little bit. Depending on how much water you used will depend on how long it takes, but watercolours do dry fairly quickly, so you probably only need 5 or so minutes. Okay, are you all ready for step number 2? Okay, this time we need our straw. If you don't have a straw, you can probably get away with doing this part without it. It might just be a little bit messier. So what we're going to do firstly is grab our brush, and we're going to get a lot of black watercolour paint on our brush. We're using quite a bit of water. It's quite important. We're going to create a bit of a pool of black here. Now this won't work unless you have a fair bit of paint, but also a fair bit of water on your black pool. All right, it shouldn't be liquidy and watery, as in the color should be really dark. So I'm getting a lot of paint on my brush. Notice I'm really scrubbing it in there so my paint is dark. And then I'm adding some water over the top. All right, in a nice sort of straight line like that. The reason we need to do that is because now we're going to blow with a straw our paint to create some branches that come up over the top of our tree. So this is the trunk, and now I'm going to blow the branches. I might need to sort of bring my trunk up a little bit to the base of my tree here. All right, I've sort of dabbed it on. You can give this a go. If this doesn't work, you can always just use your brush to paint your tree over the top, but I'm going to give a nice big blow now. Pointing my straw down. And notice in doing that, the paint has spread. So I can keep blowing. Obviously, make sure you take a break so that your body is getting enough oxygen. If you blow too much, you can start to get a little bit dizzy. So please don't let it get to that point. Just take your time with this part. And you can move your paper so that the paint goes where you want it to go. Notice I'm wobbling my straw so that the paint moves around like branches do. All right, I'm getting a little bit dizzy now, so I'm going to stop there, but you can come back to it and add more once your body has caught up with its breath. If it's not working for you, it might be that you haven't put enough water onto your work. So it's just a matter of putting some more water on top of your paint like that. And then there should be enough liquid there for you to blow. bit creepy. So that's the idea, guys. And we're going to do one more layer once that dries, but this time we're not going to use a brush, we're not going to use a straw, we're going to use our finger. So my really awesome tree trunk and branches have dried. It really didn't take very long at all. And if you don't have time to wait for it to dry, you really don't need to. So the last thing we're going to do today is add a little bit more detail by adding some individual leaves to our autumn tree here. So we're going to do that with our finger. But the first thing you need to do with your brush is just get the colours that we're going to use a bit wet. So we need them to have some water on them in order to finger paint. All right, so now what I'm going to do with my fingers, get my first colour, maybe get a bit of a tissue handy, just so you don't make too much of a mess. And we're just going to do some spots. It is fun. So just be nice and random with your leaves here, but remember, keep dipping your finger into the paint so that the colour's nice and vibrant. And if it gets a little bit dry like that, you just need to add a little bit more water. All right, I'm also going to do some leaves on the ground here, because remember, the leaves fall off. You can do some falling as well. And they fall off onto the ground. So after you've done one colour, just wipe your finger and have a go at another colour. Remember, stick with these autumn colours that we've been learning about. Getting a bit dry. So we're trying to get a really nice, clear sort of oval shape to suggest some leaves on the branches. Lucky last is yellow. Wonderful. I think I'm all done. That was heaps of fun, and I hope you've enjoyed learning 3 different ways that you can use your watercolour paints to create a really cool autumn tree. So it's as simple as that. I'm really proud of you guys, and I hope you were able to follow the steps to create something you're really proud of. This beautiful autumn tree reminds us of the change of seasons and the really cool things that happen to leaves during autumn time. Please make sure that you give me a like if you've enjoyed this, and subscribe below so I can make some more videos for you at home. Have an awesome day, and I'll catch you next time.